Okay, lesson number 2 for this week is using trig ratios to find a missing side. Just like before, you have to be dealing with right triangles, otherwise sine and cosine and tangent just don't work. So requirement number 1, it must be a right triangle. And requirement number 2, you must know at least one angle and one side. One angle, one side. One angle, one side. One angle, one side. One angle and one side must be given. And steps, as far as steps. Just like before, previous lesson, you have to figure out if it's a sine, cosine, or tangent problem. Then you set up the equation, solve the equation. So exactly the same number of steps. However, the way you solve when you're finding a side is going to be completely different. A little bit harder because there's 2 cases, which is why we are doing this lesson second. Here we go. Here's our given angle. The side across from it is the opposite side. The side across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. And then the other side is always the adjacent side. I always do it in that order, by the way. You always do something the same way every time, you're less likely to mess up. And is it sine, cosine, or tangent? Sine requires opposite and hypotenuse. We know hypotenuse. Trying to find the adjacent, so sine is out. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. We want to find the adjacent, and we are given the hypotenuse, so it's a cosine problem. Step 1 done. We know it's cosine. Now, on the previous lesson, we did not know the angle measurement, so we used a variable here. This time we know the angle measurement, so you have to put the angle measurement here. 37 degrees equals sine, cosine, and tangent are just fractions, so you make a fraction out of these 2. Cosine is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse, so x over 12.9. Okay, equation is set up. And now you are going to cross multiply. Think of it like a proportion. Proportion has 4 parts. Like going way back to maybe middle school math. 3 over 8, like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Proportion. How do you solve proportions? You cross multiply. 8x equals 12, just like that. So the purpose of cross multiplying is you have fractions, now you don't have fractions. Same thing here. Doesn't look like a proportion, but if you imagine drawing a fraction bar here and putting 1 here, it looks exactly like a proportion. So you're going to cross multiply. X times 1. Remember, if I draw a line here, put a 1 here, there's a 1, so x times 1 is x. Equal sign comes straight down. And then 12.9 times cosine of 37 degrees. 12.9 times the cosine of 37 degrees. Like that. A couple things. That is the normal or traditional way you will see it. It is multiplication, so I guess you could have written it like x equals cosine of 37 degrees times 12.9, like that, but it looks a little bit doesn't look as good. Yeah, so that's the normal way to write it. This is the exact answer. And then you plug it in your calculator to get the approximate answer. I didn't estimate at the beginning. I probably should have estimated at the beginning. So we know from geometry that the hypotenuse is always the longest side. This is about 13 whatever millimeters. This side has to be less than 13. So no matter what, when we plug this into the calculator, it better say something less than 13. Now, this is real close to that. So I'm going to say maybe 11 point something. We'll see. Grab your calculator, aka your cell phone. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I don't know the data warning. Dun, 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 dun. Calculator. Okay, so you got 12.9. 12.9 times. So I don't. Cosine, make sure you're on regular sine, cosine, tangent. Remember, inverse is for finding angles. We're not finding angles, we're finding sides. So you need just regular sine, regular cosine, or regular tangent. Cosine. 37 degrees, like that. So my estimate with my eyeballs was 11 point something. Whoop, what just happened? 11 point something. Turns out it's 10.3. I think it says round to the nearest 10. Yep. So 10.3, whatever, millimeters, inches, feet. 10.3. No labels are given on this assignment, so we don't need a label. But if there was a label like inches, you would write inches. If you write 10.3 degrees, we absolutely will mark that wrong because sides are not measured in degrees. Only angles are measured in degrees. This is the approximate answer. Voila. Okay, one more example, and then, so, yeah, here we go. Here's the angle that we are given. The side across from it is called the opposite side. The side across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. And the other side is the adjacent side. So for this problem, we want to know the opposite side, and we are given the adjacent side. So opposite and adjacent. That would make it a tangent problem. Opposite, adjacent. So it's a tangent problem. Tangent of 54 degrees is equal to opposite over adjacent. So x over 8. Again, I'm going to estimate with my eyeballs before I even begin this process, just to make sure that my answer is reasonable. So if this is 8, you would tell with your eyeballs this is longer than 8, so maybe 10. 10 would be reasonable. We'll see what happens. Again, cross multiply. X times 1 is just x. Equal sign comes straight down. 8 times tangent of 54. 8 times the tangent of 54 degrees. Voila. That's the exact answer. You plug it in your calculator to get the approximate answer. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. 8 times tangent of 54 degrees, so 11.0. Voila, 11.0 inches, feet, millimeters, something. And in part 2 of this lesson, I will cover the second type of problem you will encounter where the variable is in the top. So both of these examples, the variable will be in the bottom. Both of these examples, the variable was on the top. which makes your life a lot easier, trust me.